I'll never forget the sound that morning. It was that high-pitched, frantic wail of a siren slicing through the usual calm of a Saturday in Willow Creek. It wasn't the ice cream truck too early for that, and it wasn't the usual neighborhood noise either. No, this was something serious, I could tell. I was sitting on my back patio, trying to enjoy the morning, sipping on my coffee. At least, what was left of it after Brenda Jenkins, the HOA president, decided that my terracotta pots were displaying what she called aggressive earth tones. But that's another story. The siren grew louder, closer, and my stomach dropped. This wasn't the usual, "Oh, another fender bender" situation. No, this was bad. And when I saw the ambulance speeding toward the Miller house, I felt the air leave my lungs. The Millers had just had their baby, Timmy, born way too early. The little guy's a fighter, but when an ambulance is flying down your street like that, heading straight for their driveway, you know it's bad. I felt my heart plummet right along with that sound. And just as I braced myself, I saw her Brenda Jenkins, with her stupid VY sore and her clipboard, stepping right into the middle of the street, crossing her arms like she was the one running this whole show. She wasn't just blocking the road. She was blocking a freaking ambulance. At that moment, I lost it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My coffee, which had been warm seconds ago, flew out of my hand as I watched Brenda stand there like some kind of unmovable wall. The paramedics were already out, trying to reason with her, and I could see the strain on their faces. Time was slipping away, and this woman was arguing about the speed of the ambulance. "We have a neonatal emergency," one of the paramedics said, trying to stay calm. "We need to get through, now." And Brenda, oh Brenda, she wasn't Havwaying it. "This vehicle is exceeding the residential speed limit," she said, tapping her phone like she was on some mission to make sure the neighborhood bylaws were obeyed to the letter. "It's a violation of Willow Creek Estates' mandate. Section 4.7b, clearly posted. No approved parking permit." She even said she had it on Video. I couldn't believe it. She was going to get a baby killed over a parking permit. "Brenda," I shouted, my voice already starting to rise. "What in God's name are you doing? That's for the Miller's baby, little Timmy." She didn't even look at me. She spared me a glance, but it was the kind of look you give a fly buzzing around your face. "Rules are rules, Mr. Maxwell," she said, her voice dripping with that smug superiority. "Emergency or not, Willow Creek has standards." And that's when it hit me, hard. She wasn't just annoying. She wasn't just some petty HOA tyrant. She was a threat, a real one, a threat to a baby's life. I was about to walk up to her, ready to get in her face, but then the real punch came. Sarah Miller, Timmy's mom, came out of the house. Her face was a mess of tears, panic taking over every inch of her expression. "Please," she sobbed, her voice breaking. "My baby. Oh God, my baby." It was all I could take. I didn't even think. I just ran. The polite, nerdy engineer who normally just grumbles about HOA complaints. He was gone. In his place? Someone else, someone full of anger, someone who wasn't going to let Brenda's ridiculous obsession with bylaws stop a baby from getting the help he needed. I sprinted back toward my garage, my mind racing. My blood was boiling. I was done playing by the rules. Done with the HOA. Done with Brenda. And then, I had an idea. It was insane, reckless, and probably going to get me arrested. But in that moment, it felt like the only thing that could work. I punched the keypad for my garage door. Inside, tucked away under a tarp, was my pride and joy, the puddle jumper Mark V. I'd been building it for the past 2 years, mostly in secrecy, tinkering late into the night. A single-person electric VTOL pod. Not FAA approved. Not even close. But it was the answer to my commuter frustrations. And now, it was about to be the answer to Brenda. I ripped the tarp off the pod. It gleamed in the garage light, part carbon fiber, part aluminum, with more than a few duct-taped parts. But damn, it was my creation. I jumped in, did a quick systems check, my heart racing. Power cells charged. Fans responsive. Parachute system armed. I hit the button that opened the retractable roof of my garage. The succulent-laden cover slid back, revealing the reinforced launch pad. Brenda, still mid-rant, faltered. Her eyes went wide, and she actually stopped talking. "And what in the Sam Hill is that?" she squawked, staring at my pod. I smiled. "Sorry about the noise, Brenda. Consider this my official complaint about your face and your existence." The engines roared to life. It wasn't subtle. It sounded like a fleet of vacuum cleaners crossed with a jet engine. I climbed into the seat, strapped in, and yelled back over the deafening whine of the turbines. "This is for Timmy." The pod wobbled as I fought to get it airborne. It felt like I was controlling a drunken bee, but after a few agonizing moments of fighting the controls, the puddle jumper started to rise. I cleared the roof, barely. The scene below was frozen Brenda, her jaw slack, clipboard dangling from her hand. The paramedics were staring up, mouths wide open. Sarah had stopped crying, and in her eyes, I could see terror, and just the faintest flicker of hope. I barely held the pod steady, but somehow, I managed to get it across the street and over the Miller's lawn. "Sorry, Mrs. Henderson," I thought, as I zoomed over her prize-winning roses. "Sorry, Dave," I thought, as I skimmed across his perfectly manicured putting green. This was for Timmy. I hovered the puddle jumper next to the ambulance, nearly crashing into the oak tree. The paramedics rushed over, grabbing the portable incubator. I shouted over the roar of the engines, "Get the incubator. We need to get him to St. Mike's now." The paramedics were still in disbelief, but they didn't hesitate. "You built this," one of them shouted back. "Less talk, more baby SAVYing," I yelled. With Timmy secured in the incubator, I took off again, this time heading toward the hospital. The wind was stronger than I expected, and the puddle jumper was all over the place. My knuckles were white from gripping the controls, and my mind was spinning. I pushed through the turbulence, focusing on the glowing lights of St. Michael's in the distance. The hospital's helipad was a beacon of hope. I had to make it. And then, just as I was about to land, the worst possible thing happened. The crosswinds kicked up, and the pod started to wobble even more violently. I fought the controls, sweat pouring down my face, my heart hammering. I was inches away from disaster when I managed to level out. With a jarring thud, I landed on the helipad, a little too rough for comfort. The sirens went off, and security guards rushed toward me. "You can't land that here," one of them barked. "This is a restricted hospital helipad." But I didn't care. "Neonatal emergency," I gasped. "Baby Timmy Miller. He needs immediate attention." Before the security guards could say anything else, nurses rushed onto the helipad, grabbed the incubator, and rushed inside with Timmy. I sank back into my seat, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. I had done it. But that relief was short-lived. Within minutes, the hospital staff, security, and the police were all surrounding me. Officer Miller was there too. "Mr. Maxwell," he said, his voice flat. "We had a call about several violations of FAA regulations, city ordinances, Willow Creek HOA bylaws, and possibly the laws of physics." I smiled weakly. There was a baby in critical condition, and a woman who valued her petunias more than a human life. The Millers arrived at that moment, and Sarah hugged me. "You saved him, Leo," she said, her voice breaking. "Thank you. You saved my baby." But even as they thanked me, the hospital administration staff and security were giving me the look. "You realize the liability, Mr. Maxwell," said the director, her tone carefully neutral. But it was a positive outcome. My phone buzzed, and then it rang. Social media was blowing up. Helipad hero, puddle jumper guy, and of course, Brenda's going to blow a gasket were all trending. It was chaos, but in the end, it didn't matter. Maybe Timmy was alive, and that was all that mattered. But there would be consequences. I had to face the FAA, city ordinances, and probably a hefty fine. But it was worth it. A few weeks later, at the HOA meeting, Brenda was ousted. The neighbors rallied behind me. I had saved a life, and that was my victory. So, yeah, I built a flying pod in my garage. It was reckless. It was dangerous. But damn, it worked. And I'd do it again if it meant SAVYing another life. What about you? Have you ever been pushed to the edge like that, where you had to make a choice that defied logic but felt absolutely right? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it.